Welcome to my new traffic vlog. No, just kidding. I am stuck in traffic, and I thought I'd take this time to talk a little bit about how it's been going. And let's just say it's been 2 weeks since my 31st day of Miracle Morning. Well, I woke up again at 4 o'clock today, so I've been going strong. Other than that, still working hard, but I guess I'd just like to talk a little bit that, I'm going to say, my birthday, you didn't see that coming, right? My 35th birthday just was the other day, and I've been thinking a lot about stuff. And probably the same stuff that you've been thinking of. And if you haven't yet, you will probably start thinking about in the future. So this is going to be me just talking to myself because I've been listening to a lot of philosophy from many different angles. And trying to understand what, where my effort, time, passion, and energy is going towards. So I guess a little bit, I know I'm going to go slow, but my brain needs to kind of process this as I'm talking, so it's not like something I've rehearsed or that I'm going to clip into, overproduced, clip, like a shotgun of words at you. So I've been watching an interview by Patrick Bet-Davis, and he was kind of asked about success and how to start thinking about success as a young man going forward into the world. And he said pretty much from age 0 to 20, so from basically, they're just nice round numbers, or whatever 20 is for you. It's 18, it's 22, I don't know. Basically, he said from 0 to 20, stay out of trouble. Don't do any major mess ups that would be a permanent black mark on your record. And he gave an example of getting caught, selling heroin or coke or something like that. Even if you're just, a passenger, you don't want to even be a co-conspirator or even an accomplice. Should your buddy get arrested. So just stay out of the big no-nos. But after that, focus all of your time, effort, and just really immerse yourself in an industry from the ages of 20 to 40. So really taking the 20 years to become an expert in the industry. And then from 40 to 60, it's when you give back to society. And he put a monetary goal on the age of 40, and that's having a net worth of $100 million. It's a lot of money. You can do it, but it requires getting started before the age of 35. And that's where I find myself, is I have recently switched careers from being a piss broke architect, which I'm going to talk about later in a different vlog, and coming into real estate, which is, I don't know, I go back to the Tom Morris presentation that I covered in my the earlier vlogs, and he's talking about how you can give the dual principle. I forget what it is, but it's basically you can give your profession a noble or a trivial description. So if you think your job sucks, give it a noble description. So for much easier for architects, a lot more difficult for real estate, which is like because I'm a cynic at heart. Like I am a middleman who helps people buy and sell property by helping them negotiate and helping them find property, and essentially part-time therapist. It's kind of a cynical take on things. I mean, I'm sure you can give it a noble description, like I help people find their dream property, get them their dream property, and help them sell something for the top dollar, and for the easiest way possible, the least amount of headaches, the quickest and the highest price that we could hope for. But I don't know. It's, again, I think it goes back. Like, I've been watching a lot of it was a Tom Ferry had a therapist on, the therapist of the stars, and every time it goes back to some sort of even like Tony Robbins, it's like going back. Our formative years are really what shape our adult lives, and when it comes to child rearing, it's especially important part to pay attention to is when you have kids. It's like, how are you impacting their future adulthood? But for me, my father was a doctor, not like a ER doctor or surgeon or anything. He was a rheumatologist, so mostly dealing with joint pain and arthritis and such. I think he just didn't want to deal with all the blood and the guts. A lot of the other medical professions have to deal with. But still helping people, kind of like out of selflessness. It's a great profession. You have to have a certain amount of IQ. Okay, let me just say intelligence. You're paid well because you're essentially in charge of people's lives, and people pay the most money when it comes down to a lawyer or a doctor. Either you keep them out of jail or you keep them alive, and that's essentially why we pay them so much. Versus an architect who, you can say shelter is necessary, but architect is not really in charge of shelter. Talk to a contractor, right? That's why contractors get paid more than architects. What was I going? Oh, and so just going back, like initially I was slated to go into pre-med. I thought I was going to go to pre-med. Turns out, I got a degree in biology. I was kind of on the course. I didn't even take the MCAS just because my father got sick and I got essentially overdosed on hospital visits and staying at hospital, and they kind of, I just couldn't take being in hospital anymore, nor could I take it with the sadness and the sorrow and the misery that comes with it. Nor can I stand to see the sight of blood. So that would mean that I would be a terrible doctor if I couldn't even stick a needle in your arm, because I also have a phobia of needles. So you'll never see me give blood, ever. I had to give blood once for a test, and I fainted. I passed out. It's not a good... just kind of embarrassing when the nurses are kind of chuckling, like, what? You have this 6'2", like, broad-chested, tall guy, and he faints and, like, giving a little bit of blood. So, not a highlight in my life, but I had to face the facts. Like, it wasn't in the cards, and also suffering as a architect was not in the cards for me either. Even though I thought, here's a noble profession, it's respected. Why it's respected, I don't know. I guess it's because you have to be smart, and there's a lot of training involved. But once you kind of go through the entire rigmarole, you realize that you take a vow of poverty that you really don't take until you're thrust into getting your first job. Because nobody, I guess this is more of a personal anecdote that nobody really talked about it. was just always kind of a joke. My first warning sign was when I went to a happy hour. This was actually for landscape architects. What was it for Portico Group? And they went under and they got bought up by MIG. But just long story short, somebody was saying, "Oh, you're going to be a landscape architect." And we got talking. What does your wife do? So my wife's in finance, and they're like, "Oh, thank goodness, somebody's going to be able to, somebody in the home is going to bring home a decent paycheck." And I was like, okay. I didn't really register it. It's kind of a quip. But I didn't realize how poor the pay was. And, you're essentially getting as much training as a doctor, different type of training, but for a tenth of the pay, essentially. Less debt, unless you're out of state. But basically, long story short, I didn't get into med school. Well, I didn't even apply, so I didn't go to med school. And so instead, I became an architect because it was a noble profession. And I realized if I wanted to be at the top, because I wanted to be at the top, I didn't want to just be an employee my entire life, I would have to start my own firm, or my own sole proprietorship, or my own LLC, or like whatever small partnership, what have you. Then I was looking at the numbers, and so in the U.S. on average, the sole proprietor makes $70,000. And when you get to be your own self-employed person, you know that there's a lot more taxes that you have to pay because the employer doesn't cover your half of your employment taxes. This goes to, I think you have to pay 7.5% as an employee, and your employer covers 7.5%. Versus when you're self-employed, you have to pay the whole 14. Is it 13 or 14%? Obviously, or 15%. I guess 7.5 to 7.5 is 15. So you have to pay twice as much self-employment tax, or so for that. So I'm like, okay, well, I can stay in this business for 20 years and then start my own business, and then hope to be making as much as I was before. Taking on all that risk, meaning that I really hate working for somebody to take on the risk for essentially the same paycheck. Or I could just jump out now and start my own business as a real estate agent. And real estate agents have, because they're working on commission, so salespeople versus architects, who I guess they're also, I don't know, it's harder to explain. But they have all the fee schedules, and you have it all broken up into the different design phases and how much you can get paid. And but they're also paid on the price of the project. But all the architects are trying to undercut themselves. Who's the cheapest? Nobody wants to pay for an architect because all you get at the end of the day is essentially a set of drawings. And the set of drawings, essentially, after the construction's complete, they're useless. You got a building. I got a building. Why would I pay for a set of drawings? I'd rather, put that money into a better building. So then everybody wants to shortchange the architects, not spend money on the architecture, and well, that's why America looks the way it does. Okay, so long story short is I got into real estate basically because I wanted to learn how to be my own boss, start my own business. But we're going to get to the whole doctor bit, but basically the lack that I'm feeling of both in architecture and anything else is I feel like growing up with a doctor that's the highest calling. You're selflessly helping save people's lives. At least some people become doctors because of the prestige or the paycheck or the fact you get to drive a fancy car. And impress, I guess, girls at the bar. For me, that wasn't it. It was always you're selfless, but you're like this. I don't know. I guess you're like, yeah. I mean, you're just a selfless person who devoted their life to studying really hard, working really hard in order to help save people's lives. That's basically it. Can't do that anymore. I mean, I could go back to med school, but I'd be like 50 by the time I get. And I know the amount of medical debt now, so I'd be selflessly paying to save people's lives. They'd come out of my own pocket. And I mean, I could do that for free working at like a suicide hotline, right? I mean, I don't have to go to med school to save a person's life, right? Yeah, you're in the moment. You're pumping somebody's chest or something. Like, oh, live. But that's why I got in this whole like financial help, self-help kind of deal, because I hope what I can contribute is also perhaps saving somebody's life one day. Like, not directly, but indirectly through advice or helping get out of the rat race, and otherwise they would have gone broke, they would have gotten fired. Like, there's so many people that commit suicide, especially in this day and age, like, maybe not even voluntarily, not like a gun or to their head or something, but just through like an overdose or through. I mean, it's a whole epidemic now with, especially men, middle-aged men who. Was it Oxycontin and fentanyl and all this crap is because they have no will to live. And when you have nothing, no burden, no will to live, nothing to live for, you become self-destructive. And financial pressures, I think, are probably at the root of it. If you're nihilist and you're like, why live? It's because you don't have a burden, and so you don't have any responsibilities. The way out of becoming a nihilist is to have responsibilities and carry a burden. But if you have burdens and you have responsibilities and you can't live up to them, that's a different story. That is now soul crushing when you are essentially stripped of your livelihood, or your brain starts, it has these emotions that it fires into you that at some point become so heavy that you self-medicate and eventually end up dying because of it. Through alcohol or drug use or doing something stupid out of desperation. And so I have this time, I have, hopefully as a real estate agent, I'm my own boss, so I can dedicate my own time towards making videos and informational content and hopefully inspire people to change their lives and either avoid getting into this whole trap in the first place of the plight of the middle class man, and getting out of the rat race and being able to provide for your family, and taking on burdens by pushing yourself to find success, and really questioning what you're meant to be, and finding that purpose in your life to push you forward. especially for people who don't have a father anymore, like mine passed away, or some people don't even have a father because they left, or for a multitude of reasons why they are no longer talking to them. Being able to talk it out. That's why coaches are so popular. A coach is kind of a mix between a therapist and a counselor. I think a coach nowadays is people want to admit that they don't have any mental problems, and so they hire somebody to tell them what they should be doing, and they probably know full well what they should be doing. And I kind of have that happen to myself sometimes. Like I ask myself, what would a coach say in this position, and how would they push me in a certain direction? Oh, come on, what's all this? Fresh hell is this traffic? I've never seen traffic here before. I guess we gotta talk longer. So basically, the only thing that now allows me to align my childhood goal, not even self-instilled, but like I guess. My conception of success is to help people and save their lives. And when I watched what Tony Robbins can do to these people that are suicidal, like he asked people that are suicidal to stand up in the middle of like this packed stadium, and people stand up and they break down, and he kind of deconstructs the reason why they're suicidal in the first place. Getting down to why, and then, what would your death help with? And that's one way to kind of go through some of the I'm never good enough, or I guess the one I watched was a little girl. She tried to take pills because her family was breaking apart, and she thought by doing that she would keep her family together. And that's different than the people that I'm trying to target, and that's people like me. You got a family to support, and I know what it's like trying to do your best. You can't always succeed, but that's why I'm trying to make these videos, because I want to show you that you don't have. It's easy for somebody that's successful to say, "Oh, you should be doing this. Oh, you should be doing that." And sometimes it's luck that got them in there in the first place, and they're attributing all these things to their luck or what have you. And I want to show you in real time that doing what I'm telling you and just kind of noodling around ideas to what is it to be human, really, and ultimately finding success through perseverance. If I can do that from teaching people finance and teaching them how to invest and teaching them, I guess, just some basic philosophy. Because the more I try to find, like, what is my purpose in life, I come up empty. I come up blank. I don't have an answer yet, and I don't think I'm equipped yet. I don't have enough. I've had too much philosophy training, and at the same time not enough to be able to answer that. And coming from a biological background, it's easy to be a cynic and attribute everything to biological urges, or through the fact that we're animals, and what have you, when it comes to what separates man from beast. The biologists will say we're just beasts, we're just nature. And then everything else kind of just gets excused as, oh yeah, it's just human nature. Oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, the longer that I've been apart from that kind of thinking, the more I have adopted the mindset that we're more than just biological urges. And the fact that we're able to determine our own reality is proof of that. The fact that we can reprogram ourselves, the fact that we, as much as people say we don't have free will, we have free will. Most people don't have free will because they don't understand that they have free will, if that makes sense. Once you kind of escape the matrix, which to me is the rat race, which is you living unconsciously on autopilot. And this is, I was watching, what was it? A commencement speech by David something. It's not his last name, it's not something, but it's just Google it, or YouTube it, and it's called, Be Like Water? I'm blanking on it now. It's an awesome commencement speech, especially if you're pedantic and overly educated, and you feel like you're beyond this self-help crap, then it's perfect for you. He's a very smart guy, but I think he ultimately is dead. I don't know if he overdosed or if he committed suicide or something, but super smart dude. He's back from early 2000s, back before the world went crazy. But basically, he said, when we all get out of college, you can live your life kind of programmed the way that you were in college, because college is about critical thinking. It's about learning to think. But he's like, oh, when you get stuck in traffic, all you see is SUVs, and you just kind of complain about the world and all this waste, and then you go to the grocery store, and then oh, look at all these idiots and all these dregs around me buying groceries, and you talk to a grocery clerk who's going to say, have a good day with, I forgot how he says it, but he's like, the cheerfulness of death. But we never stop to think about why somebody cut us off in traffic, or why somebody's there in a rush, or has all these, why is the mother screaming at our child, or we come, we're almost this conceit being that we're smarter and better than people around us, but we never stop to think, what if their wife is pregnant and she's in the back seat and they're trying to get to the hospital on time. That's why they cut me off. And you know what? I should feel grateful that I don't have to be going through such a traumatic event. And it's just not getting angry. And what if, and putting these thought experiments into place and breaking out of our day-to-day autopilot, our unconscious living. Even though, we're the smartest people in the world because we went to a U.S. university and yada yada. Until we start breaking out of our autopilot thinking patterns, we're never gonna essentially escape the matrix. And that's why I think even if, I'm not gonna get into that just yet, but he also goes into the bit that everybody worship something. And some people, worship God. Some people worship what he says is God or Allah or Yahweh. Or then he goes into like the Wiccans worship something, and then, or the Four Truths, the Four Noble Truths. I don't even know what that is, but basically, like, you have these people that worship some higher purpose, and then there's people that worship money, power, fame, beauty, intellect, and that sort of stuff. And they don't have that higher power to aspire to. They have these human characteristics, and that's what's going to ultimately eat them alive. So if you worship money, for instance, that's going to eat you alive. There'll never be enough. When did I get there? Okay, because at 35, turning 35 means that I now have 5 years to reach a net worth of $100 million. And that's a pretty large number. And why $100 million? It's not because I worship money, but because Patrick Bet-David, like I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, beginning of this, he did an interview and he said that was what you should aspire to by the age of 40, is $100 million. And for me, it's not because I want $100 million necessarily to gloat or because I love money, but it's proving to me that I've had enough impact in the world where people benefited from my actions. It's an easy way money is an easy way to judge success. And I guess that's what I'm doing, is judging my own success based on a number. As stupid as that sounds, I know. But traffic. More traffic. Traffic. So, in order to get to 100 million, well, I mean, we can unpack the whole going after a dollar figure to define success. But for me, right now, again, I said I'm not good enough at philosophy just yet to find another metric to success. It would mean doubling my net worth every year from 35 to 40, because I have lost so much time. I've lost 15 years by getting into my professional late. If I started at the age 20, getting to $200 million, $100 million would be, I think, pretty simple, because you have 20 years to become an expert, invest your money smart, and really excel by starting early. Starting at 35, I only have 5 years to make up for essentially 20 years. And so I'm kind of frantic and scrambling, trying to reach my $100 million goal. And so I'm going to have to be far more creative, trying to reach that $100 million goal. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to double my money every year. Or my net worth, not my money, is kind of a weird way to say that, but so 40 equals 100 million. So at 39, I'd have to have 50, and kind of down the ladder there. So 50, 25, 12 and a half, 6.75, and then 3. That's something. Anyway, that's my goal, is to double my money. So how am I going to get to, I don't know yet. So I've been trying to get better at cryptocurrency. Even if I were to make $1 million through commissions and not paying any taxes, real estate agent, I still wouldn't get to the $3 million mark. And being a $1 million producing single agent is pretty damn good. That means you're at the top of your field. I'm not going to be at the top of my field in a year. And there's people, doing real estate for 20 years that are struggling to make $1 million. So, not that I'm saying I won't be able to make $1 million. It's just it'll require a lot more social media presence, building a team, and a lot more learning that's going to be involved by the time I can have substantial income through real estate. So in the meantime, I have to find other methods, which is social media. So that's why I'm going to be doing these vlogs, because I think it's very relevant for people having their own business, even if you're not in real estate. How all businesses fail because, well, not because, but a lot of businesses fail because they never escaped obscurity. Meaning, even though if they had a great product, they were unable to sell it because nobody knew they existed in the first place. Which is the whole point of me getting now into TikTok, which I have been avoiding social media like the plague. First of all, I have to listen to my voice, I have to see my face, and I don't like spending time on social media. I like spending time in the real world, which is, I feel like I'm missing out on the whole NFTs and the metaverse, and like there's now digital real estate for sale, which kind of goes against the whole thing about land is finite. That's what gives it value, because of proximity. If you're just online, why does anything have value? There's no proximity, and so then it's just purely about aesthetic. So I'm trying to wrap my head around why somebody would pay like $1 million for an online piece of property, or a rental property. I'm trying to get my head around that. I'm pushing myself to get into that untapped space because it's so new, and nobody is really exploiting it yet. So there's a lot of it's like the gold rush, right? So it's also why I'm trying to get on TikTok, because a lot of real estate agents are avoiding TikTok because they don't understand it. Because a lot of Generation Z's on TikTok, and they're like, well, the people buying and selling houses aren't on TikTok, and yada yada yada, and I don't want to learn another platform. I already have Instagram, I have Facebook, I have YouTube, and LinkedIn, and like how many and I have a website to maintain. It's like, so I'm just going to focus on YouTube and TikTok, learn TikTok, and understand it. Look at my hair. So hopefully, all in effort to reach the 100 million by 40, building a successful business, but also helping people out of the depths of their misery, specifically financial misery. And that's what I can help with. It's a little harder to reach. Not really. Everything is based off personal issues. Even marriage issues are based off personal issues. Business relationships are based off personal issues. There's never this is the guy from Tom Ferry, the therapist. He's absolutely right, because if there's something wrong, it's wrong with the individual. And goes to Chris. Who said it? But Chris Voss also adopted it. Jordan Peterson also adopted it. It's always try to, if you're arguing with somebody or you're negotiating with somebody, which an argument is a negotiation, just treat it as such, and it'll be a lot more entertaining for you because you get to practice your skills. When you're negotiating or arguing, rephrase the person's argument, condense it, and repeat it back to them, see if they agree with it, and see if you can make it better and more concise and cleaner than they even stated in the first place. And when you have that, that's what you have to argue against. Don't present your own straw man and say, oh, well, blah, 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 straw man defeated, therefore your argument is null and void. That's not. So, personal issues, really asking why, and if at the end of the day, why is equal financial means, I hope to help you with that. And if not, through this financial means, there's going to be hopefully personal discovery. This personal discovery is going to be through philosophy and really understanding, is success based truly off money? And as I alluded to earlier, most rich people, once they have enough money, they give back to their community. And so that's step one. So in any hierarchy of needs, just like we're going to reach in Napoleon Hill's chief definite aim, it's first based off money. I think a lot of troubles start with money. So our first chief definite aim that we're going to cover in Napoleon Hill is money. Once we have money taken care of, then we can start focusing our life on giving back to the community and more the infinite mindset that Simon Sinek talks about. Is the infinite mindset, how you can give back and think more than just the small you, right? It's the bigger picture. But first you need to take care of you before you can take care of the big picture. And before it gets too dark and you can't see my face, I think that's where I'm at right now. And, it'd be nice to have this grand ambition and something, but it might be completely useless, man, right? Especially for you, if you're like, I don't care what you have to say, I just need to make rent, right? So I'm going to focus on the people that just need to make rent, or have bills to pay and are underwater, and telling them how to budget realistically and how to cut out their excess spending, and when they're doing that, paying attention to the philosophy that I've been reading to, and Nietzsche and all the stuff that he's talking about. I don't know, I'm not going to regurgitate Nietzsche for you, but basically where I'm coming from, and what kind of even philosophers come from somewhere. They all sprout from somewhere and something, and when they germinate, they're germinating from where they're from. So they all have, Hintergedanken. Let's see. Anyways, they all come from somewhere. They all have they're never a rational being. They all, they're human beings. And so you can never really get a pure rational idea. It's always going to be impacted by the person's motivations. So that's where I'm motivated from. And hopefully the thing that I'm worshiping at this moment, because I have not found Jesus, nor do I care for money or fame or prestige. It's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for my own self-satisfaction, to help save somebody's life and better somebody's life. Because honestly, I have it pretty good. I have my own existential crisis when it comes to providing for my family, but I think that's normal, especially for when you reach my age, when your life really hasn't been prescribed. When you're young, you're like, go do this, and then all of a sudden, you're out in the real world, and you're like, shit, where do I go? What does it all mean? Why am I trying? It's like, once you stop being treated like a child, essentially, even through college and grad school, like, this is what we're going to do, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're going to do, all of a sudden you get placed into the world, and now what? So my question now is, now what? so helping, through this, I get to talk to myself and understand my own thoughts. And maybe you can understand your own thoughts too by having somebody else to kind of listen to and see if there's any some commonalities in the line of thinking about what's important for you right now. And once you've reached that first goal of keeping your head above water, and then what? And that's why we read that Millionaire Master Plan, because we're infrared. Like, I'm not getting enough money in right now. Like, you can be a millionaire and still be an infrared. That's the whole point of infrared. You don't necessarily just have $0 in your bank account. You can have $1 million in your bank account, but hemorrhaging money, and you're an infrared. So working every day to get out of infrared, and getting to the point where then people come to me for business, and then starting a team, and then coming up with that climbing the tree of ambition, really, and passion, and ultimately living up to your potential and not having any regret in your life that, oh, I wish I did this, only if I did this, oh, I wish I only dedicated more time to this every morning. And so I'm still focusing on waking up at 4 in the morning, still trying hard, still learning, and pushing myself in the direction of becoming that person I want to be in 2 years. And who is that person? I did some visualization today, trying to envision what that person is. Not there yet. It's still visualizing somebody else, but I'm trying to understand what mannerisms, what characteristics, what is it about them that I can adopt and then put into my own persona. Because you may think that you're an original being, but not really. You've incorporated things out of your life and your past, your present, to the mannerisms and the way that you behave, the way you think today. And I'm gonna kind of wipe the slate clean with all the crap that shouldn't be in there. And so wiping the crap out of essentially the baggage from grad school and architecture, and saying we're no longer that mindset. We're no longer our days are no longer dictated. So now it's completely up to us to succeed. Anyway, I've talked for long enough. Thank you for watching this. I'm just rambling, but hopefully it made some sense of this. I'm almost home, so I gotta watch out for deer as soon as I get off the highway. So until next time, maybe I'll have a little bit more insight, but I doubt it. I think it's going to be kind of a long-term game here while I start consuming more inspiring content. Acknowledging my own success and what it means. So setting that goal, but also enjoying the goal along the way, right? So right now I'm still kind of floundering, like, what is my target? I mean, I'm stuck at Tom Morris's number 1, what's my target? And if my target is just getting out of infrared, that's my target for now, and then we can always change our targets. Remember, our targets are not fixed. And once we hit that deer, you don't have to say, okay, I'll never hit another deer again, right? It's like, let's get our first one, let's take small steps, let's make enough money to then we can actually eat enough food before we can start thinking long term, right? So that's the goal now, is to take care of the short term needs. once the short-term needs are taken care of, let's focus on the long-term needs. And I think that's what everybody kind of realizes is we move through life in stages. And so right now, let's beat the stage, right? When we start any MMO or any RPG, it's like, slay 5 boars. It's not like slay the dragon at the end of the quest. It's like, holy crap, how do I get there? There's no, a simple road or, I think it's pretty boring just having that at the end. You're like, I can never get closer. I'm just, here I am killing boars. Like, I've failed killing the dragon, even though you're an hour into the game. You're like, I failed. Let's make those intermediate quests available for us, right? Okay, it's dark and you're gonna see me here. Just the whites of my eyes here. Okay, that's it for now. Hopefully that gave you something to think about while you're driving or working out or just whatever you're doing. I'll check you next time. See ya.